Divine peace, family. Honor the ancestors, our righteous ancestors. We honor you, those who are gently kissed by the sun. We honor our divine creators, divine cosmic mother. I want to talk about this little book that I have, How White Folks Got Rich. You ever heard that old cliche, old adage that they tell you, pull yourselves up by your own bootstraps? Well, hell, if you gave me some boots, I could do that, is my answer. But we're going to talk about how white folks got rich. Some of you may know where I'm going with this already. And that's good if you do. But how white folks got rich. Listen to this. Listen to this. You with me? You with me? Okay. The foundation of American white supremacy sits tenaciously, on a rickety base of myths, lies, and deceptions. A century and a half after the end of legal slavery, white families averaged, listen to this, $113,000 in wealth. Okay, but for black families, it's just $5,600. $5,600. All right, this is a century and a half after the end of legal slavery. More than a quarter of black families have no assets at all. The wealth gap between whites and blacks has quadrupled since 1984 and is now wider than it has ever been. Even high-income blacks have assets of only $18,000, while middle-income whites have $74,000. You see the disparity there? Okay. And to add insult to this never-ending injury, blacks make up an unlucky 13% of the U.S. population, but own a meager 1% of America's total wealth, and whites own almost all the rest. So here we are, 13% of the population. I think the numbers have fluctuated a little bit, but we own a meager 1%. That's ridiculous. I could go on. I could springboard off that, but let me continue reading. Stay focused here. While wealthy whites are getting even richer, all of the financial gains made by the black middle class over the last 30 years are being totally wiped out by this latest economic downturn called the Great Bush Recession a few years ago. Okay. Since the official start of the recession in 2007, the number of multimillionaires worldwide has exploded. There are now 170,000 people worth 30 million or more, up 60%. 37,000 people worth $100 million or more, up 62%. And 1,700 billionaires, up 82%. Okay. Since 2008, the U.S. alone has spawned over 1 million new billionaires just in the U.S. Blacks have been in America longer than any other people, save the American Indian, yet of the 10 richest American blacks, there is only one billionaire, Oprah. We know that's changed. I think Dr. Dre, I think Jordan is now, I think. This pamphlet is a couple years old, so I know this has changed just a little bit, but still, it's crazy, the disparity. Like the brother said, we've been here the longest. You would think that since we've been here the longest, we would have the most opportunity to do more, spread, take advantage of what's here. But we're going to see why we can't, why we haven't. I shouldn't say we can't because we can, but we've adopted this crazy, insane mental foolishness within our consciousness that, you know, we continue to hold ourselves back and hold one another back um, due to this folly that we live in. But let's listen. Let me jump down. Okay, this is important to know that see, Oprah Winfrey, and she ranked 607th on the Forbes list at this particular time of wealthiest Americans. Okay, 607. She was listed as. Okay, all 10 are in the entertainment field, and their total wealth is 7.6 billion, amounts to less than 1/10 of the richest white man, which is Bill Gates. At the time, it's probably more than this now, but $78.9 billion he's worth. Wow, it's ridiculous. Okay, but how exactly have America's whites gained their unprecedented 20-to-1 wealth advantage? Was it by engaging in hard work, by investing wisely, quote unquote, by pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps, quote unquote, or by playing by the rules, quote unquote? As you know, those are some of the things that they say. I don't know if you grew up around white folks or not, but they'll tell you that in a minute. You got to play by the rules. That's how you get ahead. You got to invest wisely. Let's take a look. Pull yourselves up by your own bootstraps. Okay, the public airways are nonetheless filled with the self-righteous pronouncements, like I just said, of media commentators anxious to advise, quote unquote, advise us, blacks, to do what whites do if they want to succeed here in America. Not only have whites spun a fairy tale about their achievements in America, but whites' achievements in America that whitewashes a very violent and bloody history. They whitewash a very violent and bloody history. But they promote a parallel fantasy that non-whites are both congenially lazy. All right, that's what they promote about us. This parallel fantasy, and naturally inferior, and are thus responsible for having comparatively nothing because of this so-called parallel fantasy that the whites push upon our consciousness. The truth is a whole lot nastier than that. All right, check this out, every mechanism of government, religion, and private enterprise was craftily employed to specifically hamstring black prospects for success after slavery. And some of those institutionalized injustices, let me turn the page here, were devilishly or cleverly ingenious. Okay. All sectors of American society harmonized to institute a series of affirmative actions, initiatives, which gave white people exclusive material advantages that have nothing to do whatever to do that have nothing whatever to do with either merit or hard work. I've got to read this again. All sectors of American society harmonized to institute a series of quote unquote affirmative action initiatives, which gave white people exclusive material advantages that have nothing whatever to do with merit or hard work. By gangster force and wily deception, whites aggressively sabotaged black advancement. They sabotage black advancement. They employed lynching, mob violence, domestic terrorism, while simultaneously crafting policies and laws to gift themselves a vast assortment of privileges, preferences, incentives, subsidies, tax breaks, grants, awards, discounts, investments, exclusives, set-asides, exemptions, credits, quotas, deductions, and countless other benefits, hoarding the nation's vast resources along strictly racial lines. Take America's favorite billionaire, Los Angeles Clippers owner at the time, Donald Sterling, born as Donald Tokowitz to immigrant so-called Jewish parents. Despite all the fury directed at him in 2014 for embarrassing caught-on-tape racist rant, he has made $1 million 2,000 times. He has made $1 million 2,000 times since that rant. He started out as a slip and fall attorney, gaming the legal system for a tidy fortune. Then he acquired a pair of large apartment buildings in LA with lots of Black, Latino, and Asian tenants. And at a time when real estate ventures in LA were seeing returns of over 6,000%. Instead of appreciating the Black contribution of his astronomical fortune, Sterling was quoted as complaining that, quote, Black people smell and attract vermin, unquote, and that, quote, Hispanics just smoke and hang around the building, unquote. Preferring instead Korean tenants because, quote, they will pay the rent and live in whatever conditions I give them, unquote. His racism was so pervasive that the government actually sued him, winning for the tenants the largest award ever. In '81, he acquired the Clippers for $12.5 million in a sport whose most notable talent is almost all Black. A Black Clippers executive sued Sterling when he not only found out how woefully underpaid he was compared to whites, but also discovered that he worked for a man who wanted to fill his team with, quote, poor Black boys from the South and a white head coach, unquote. Throughout his racial madness and a series of sex-based charges, Sterling's wealth just grew and grew. Recently, Sterling told his girlfriend, quote, It bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with Black people, unquote. And, quote, the little I ask you is not to bring them to my games, unquote. Far from being penalized, Sterling's racial vomit actually inflated the team's value from a mere $1.6 billion to a selling price of $2 billion, an incredible 15,900% return over his 33 years of Clipper ownership. So with each successive expression of racial Neanderthalism, Donald Tokowitz Sterling only inflated his net worth. Sterling's racism appears to be his best and most lucrative investment yet. I'm going to continue with part 2 of this in a minute, but this is crazy. Crazy. You see, this is America. That's how they get down. This is their reality. Almost to reward insanity. This man's mind. And he's continued to make money. All right, so that's the end of that. BB Afodie, African liberation for your mind and for your spirit. Peace.